Yep, we finally did it. We bought a tractor. Welcome to NerdSteading. Hey, welcome back to NerdSteading from the wilds of Oregon. It's May, time for sun, fun, and seasonal allergies. I'm now sitting on our latest purchase, a Mahindra E-Max 20 tractor. Okay, so why did I have to wait to moving across the country to buy a nice piece of diesel machinery like this? Well, the last place was 5.8 acres. It had a lot of fences, and most of it ended up being pasture, and we had a little bit of it that was a yard. And like good suburbanites, we paid someone to mow the yard and do all the trim and edging and stuff, and then we didn't pay the horses or the goats to eat all the grass, or the weeds, or the poison ivy, or whatever grew back there. Here, 6.4 acres. Actually a little bit more usable pasture. Not all of it's fenced yet. And we're not in the mountains, but we're at like 500, 550 foot elevation. We have bobcats. We have a cougar. Non-metaphorical cougars. So goats, probably not that great of an idea until we do some fencing upgrades or figure out if the cougar actually makes it all the way up here. But we're doing a lot more clear cutting now. We have a need for something that has a front scoop as a loader. And honestly, having our own brush cutter so that we don't have to pay the guy down the hill with the bush hog to come up here and clear cut our property and keep the grass down so that we can find out where the damn gophers are. At this particular moment in time, why I bought a tractor? In these uncertain times, as every email starts in the spring of 2020, financing on vehicles like automobiles, tractors, farm equipment is extremely low. Most of them are 0% financing for terms between 60 to 84 months. No money down, 90 days to first payment. What I'm sitting on right here is what they refer to as a compact tractor. Depending on which brand you go with, it'll run you between $15,000 and $20,000 well equipped. Yeah, I know, we're into the price of a good used car or a bad new one. When we were on the property in Georgia, we could get by with something like a John Deere, those little runabouts, look like a tiny little dump truck, or a Polaris Ranger, which is what we have when we replaced the John Deere. That Polaris is four-wheel drive, fuel-injected engine, safety belts, roll cage, etc. That's a $12,000 piece of kit. These farm vehicles are not kidding around. They're not cheap, but they're perfect for what you normally do with them. Back has a brush cutter attachment, 4-foot diameter. There's a 54-inch mowing deck on this. There's a huge scoop in the front, which has a cool handle to operate. I've got all kinds of like buttons and levers and things. Really tall grass or areas where you think you have lots of rocks and don't want to do what I used to call adventure mowing, where I would find cinder blocks with the mulching lawnmower. Do that with a brush cutter. If you want to do your basic mowing, once you've cleared that out, you can use the deck, or you can actually combine. Rear attachments come off of a thing known as a 3-point harness or 3-point hitch, and there's a whole series of aftermarket attachments you can put on one of these. This thing's well equipped. It's got a 20 horsepower diesel engine. I love diesel engines for this sort of stuff. Lots of torque, very good life. Now, 18 to 20 horsepower, I will warn you, is not like... They'll try to upsell you at a farm store, and they're partially right. There's certain jobs that 20 horsepower is going to be a little light on. If I was doing a lot of hard dirt scraping, say like a front attachment on this thing that did a lot of clearing of gravel or scraping down hard dirt to get to the soil beneath, I might want to bump up a few horsepower. And a lot of the mini tractors, the 18 to 20 horsepower models, especially stuff like Kubota, you can't get certain rear attachments for it. So I don't think I can use a backhoe on this. I honestly don't need a backhoe that much. If I do, I'll rent one. Some things you have to watch out for. You're driving a bigger vehicle than it feels. When you just sit on the tractor, it feels like you're sitting on kind of a slightly larger lawnmower. Except you've got this big brush cutter, this giant whirling blade of death attached to your butt. The front with the scoop, you have to change the elevation on it while you're driving it if you don't remove it entirely. Leaving the scoop on while you're mowing sometimes is good, especially if you're doing a field. If you find rocks or cinder blocks, you can just pick them up I mean, pick them up with your hands if you're not used to using the front attachment, or scoop them up if you've gotten proficient. But if you run into random objects like that while you're mowing, just toss them in the front and then drop them in the woods when you're done with your cleanup. Get them out of the way so you don't hit them the next time. The back attachment does come off. I want to use this to mow around more of the yard, but I can't really do a lot of the basic mowing around the house with this thing. I can get some of it if I take the front scoop off and I take off the back attachment. Tractors like this have a big roll cage on it, which, hey, is a great place to put a GoPro. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. You waited till you got to Oregon to buy a tractor. You're becoming more of a redneck the farther you get from the South. Two things about that. Well, three, really. One, redneck is not an insult. We'll talk about that later. Two, everybody's got rednecks. I've traveled the world. Everybody's got rednecks. Oregon rednecks are not that different from your rednecks where you are. It's just they have opinions about rosé and juicy IPAs. It's a thing. Third, this is the place where I needed the tractor. I really didn't need the tractor back in Georgia. But the kind of stuff we're doing here, I kind of need a tractor. And I'm going to be honest with you, I actually kind of like it. When you were a kid, you got a Tonka truck, and you thought that was going to be the coolest thing to play with. When you're in your 40s and you can afford good credit financing, you get your Tonka truck. It's just that it's not always yellow. Anyway, I'm going to go beat up some yard. This is Brian from NerdSteading. Have fun, and don't tip your tractor over. Well, that was fun.